Hey everybody, welcome to week number 5 of Social Work 540, Social and Economic Justice 1. This week your readings will take you into a more modern time. We're stepping out of long past history and into the time of the Great Depression, the New Deal, getting into social policy that we can still see in existence today and that we continue to debate as we talk about entitlements and social welfare programs like Medicare and Social Security, and discuss how to bring those things up to date in a way that matches our current society, our current economy, and also continues to meet the needs of all of our citizens and people in need in this country. And as we continue to discuss how to meet all of our needs, we continue to look at the way that social policy evolves over time. That brings us to the discussion posts this week, where we're going to look at the evolution of attitudes and perspectives on social welfare. This discussion forum post, you're going to be looking at the shared case that Widener has about Anita and her family. Many of you have probably already seen this case before, so it should be familiar. But this time we're going to be looking at it from a more social political perspective. And we're going to look at the evolution of attitudes and perspectives of what has brought Anita to the situation that she is in today. You're going to look at the situation of Anita in 3 different time periods, and you're going to look at, for each of those time periods, how would people from those eras view people like Anita and her situation? What kinds of assumptions would people have about who's at fault and who is to blame for her situation? So oftentimes when looking at people who are downtrodden or people who are in vulnerable circumstances, there are different reasons for which we believe they have gotten into that situation. And so you're going to be looking at, for each of the decades that are in the prompt, what would people during that era have said about Anita and her family and the reason that they were in the situation that they were in, or the community that Anita lives in, is in? And then what is an example of policy from that particular era that would have contributed to or impacted the family situation? Here you can draw from the Trattner text to look at different examples of policy throughout those different time periods. So you're going to look at these questions about how people in larger society would view people like Anita and her family, what assumptions they would have about fault and blame in the situation, and examples of policy in the 1960s, the 1970s, and then the 80s and 90s. And you should see that throughout each of those decades, there's a different type of attitude and a different evolution of policy to respond to situations of vulnerability. So we want to see changes in the way that society had responded, depending on leadership, depending on social priorities, depending on the economy, different issues that impacted the way that people in vulnerable situations were viewed. And then your second discussion post this week is actually going to be due on Sunday. This one is a continuation of your social welfare papers that you turned in during week number 4, and where you began to describe a social welfare problem and its history in the United States. Now we're going to start thinking about what solutions have been proposed for that problem and what kinds of things have been put out there to address that particular problem. So for the social welfare problem that you have already identified, you're going to describe at least 3 programs or policies in the U.S. that address that social problem. Talk a little bit at length about each of those policies. The post does not have to be long, and again, it's due on Sunday, so you're not expected to respond to your classmates' prompts in this particular post. But do spend some time thinking and describing policies and programs that have been created to address your social welfare problem that you've been identifying in your discussion posts previously and in your paper. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to let me know. Otherwise, I look forward to reading your posts.